guys from my team is also here. So my name is Molly Chase. I'm the Vice President of Policy with the San Diego Housing Commission. One second, And we are administering the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program on behalf of the City of San Diego. The program was authorized by the City Council on February 22nd, and the application launched online on March 15th. It's available at that website here, covidassistance.sdhc.org. Landlords and tenants can apply for assistance, and the application is available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. The program helps pay past due unpaid rent and utilities for City of San Diego households with low income. The original program that we're administering the funds currently, you had to have experienced a financial hardship due to the ongoing COVID pandemic. I'll get into moving forward. Some changes, you just have to have had an impact during the time of the pandemic. So actually an important difference that's been made. We can pay past due internet service expenses, and subject to availability, we can help with upcoming rent. So this tenant does have to have a City of San Diego address. If you have questions, there is a County of San Diego program that's being administered and a City of Chula Vista program that's being administered. The way that our portal works, if your tenant or as you as the landlord put in a zip code that's not in the City of San Diego, on our portal, it will redirect you to the county site or to the City of Chula Vista site. The household has to have an income at or below 80% of San Diego's area median income, which is currently $97,000 a year for a family of 4. We are prioritizing per federal and state regulations at or below 50% AMI, or a household that has been unemployed for 90 days and remains unemployed. So the household does have an obligation to pay rent, and the household experienced or is at risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and that can just be found by the fact that they are having difficulty meeting their rental obligation. So that's the basics of the program. The original funding that was allocated in February was $83 million budgeted for the assistance payments. So these are federal funds that were allocated to the City of San Diego from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and then some state block grants that were allocated through that. And so for many of you, if you may have had questions on the previous program, due to the Senate bill at the time, we were stuck only being able to pay 80% of arrears and 25% of future payment of rent. Thanks to the advocacy that the city did in partnership with the San Diego Housing Commission, we can now pay 100% of rental debt and 100% of future payment of rent. So out of that $83 million, this is kind of where the applications stand now. As of August 9th, we have 17,000 applications that have been submitted. 1,300, almost 1,400 applications have been submitted by landlords. The rest have been submitted by the tenant. The SDHC began making payments in April of 2021, and so far as of Friday, we've dispersed almost $71 million. And the additional almost $13 million has actually been obligated to households that have already submitted applications. So out of that original $83 million, we've spent and obligated all of that funding. And then you can see on this website, the program data is updated daily. So you can go and see how many applications have been submitted, and that's updated every day. So as I said earlier, we don't have to get into the weeds of this, but definitely if you have questions, this is where the big changes have happened, and we've already started implementing. So we started advocating for changes to state law in April and May of this year, because we were seeing the difficulty for both tenants and landlords of understanding this 80% payment of arrears, 25% payment of future payment of rent. Additionally, one of the changes that's not listed here that we advocated for and was implemented is we can now pay household debt even if the tenant has moved out of the unit. So we were hearing from many tenants and landlords that there was a debt that was accrued, but the person was no longer living there. Previously, we were not able to pay that rental debt. Now we can. And so with the changes to AB 832, we anticipate fully expending all of the funding, as I said earlier. This is some of the community outreach that we've done since March of this year. We've contracted with 2-in-1 San Diego to answer questions and help complete applications. All of these resources are available for both tenants and landlords. We've contracted with 10 community-based organizations that are speaking and offering assistance in more than 20 languages. And then we've contracted with 2 additional community-based organizations to do some door-to-door and community outreach, specifically in our API communities. And so I am available for any questions or comments. I think I missed. This doesn't have the slide on the new funding, but on July 27th of this year, we received approval from the city of San Diego to administer an additional $60 million from the American Rescue Plan Act funding. So that funding has now, we've received authority to start administering it. We can administer that funding moving forward. So we can provide a total of up to 18 months of assistance of 100% of rent. So rental arrears still need to be prioritized, as well as future payment of rent. And so
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Molly. I have a question. It's hard. I haven't seen much in the news, and I'm really kind of wondering if you have any insight into this. So renter groups and renters are saying that landlords are not allowing them to apply, aren't partnering, aren't agreeing to this. And landlords are saying tenants don't qualify for it. You know, they haven't had COVID, they're just not paying, so they can't evict them. Do you have any research or any insight into what's actually happening out on the ground? Like why money wasn't being distributed?
So in terms of why money is not being distributed, that I think that point, we've distributed more than $71 million. So we will have obligated all of the money that we've been allocated. And that is where some confusion lies. You don't have to have had COVID to qualify. You just need to meet the AMI restrictions and have had some sort of impact during the pandemic to qualify for the assistance. And in terms of the tenant-landlord relationship, I think that's an important question. The tenant does have to submit an application. So that's based on the federal regulations. Landlords cannot submit an application without the approval of the tenant. And so we understand that there have been situations where that's been difficult. We've worked closely, whether it's our team going to buildings and presenting to tenants, whoever will show up to community meetings and answering any questions that they have. We've done that a number of times. We've done direct mailings to property management companies from the commission to tenants explaining what assistance is available. And we also have organizations under contract that can assist with any tenant-landlord relationships. The National Conflict Resolution Center is under contract in case there are any situations where additional assistance is needed. But generally, that's why we have significant information in multiple languages from the Housing Commission, so that both tenants and landlords can see actually what makes them eligible for the program, what the assistance can help provide, and additionally get through some of the questions and maybe misinformation about what would make you eligible or not eligible, specifically around immigration status. And many tenants think, or we heard from community-based organizations, were worried that accepting assistance would not allow them to qualify for any additional assistance program. So we've been communicating through different avenues that that's not true as well.
Has Section 8, does it overlap with this program at all, or has Section 8 been impacted at all?
So we can provide assistance to Section 8 households, both for rental assistance and for the utility assistance.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the further need, so you spent a good portion of the money. What do you think the total need will be out there? And do you think we're going to come up real short at the end?
So that we haven't had any data right throughout the pandemic on what the need is, but we've just been working on the allocations from the federal government. So obviously we went through the 83 million in about 6 months. We have an additional $80 million coming in. We understand with the eviction moratorium ending, it's a really important time to let tenants and landlords know the assistance is available to cover all of their debt as well as future rent now rather than wait. So that's why we're doing as much outreach as we can over the next couple of weeks so that we can provide the application assistance before that timeline occurs.
So Molly, have you contacted the Southern California Rental Housing Association? I mean, they I know they're representing the property owners, but they would love to be able to help.
Yeah, we've done 2 or 3 webinars that have been recorded with Southern California Housing Rental Association, as well as a number of different mailers and communications beginning before actually the application went live.
Good deal. And how much further out beyond the eviction moratorium will the city be able to disperse monies?
So we have until 2022 to obligate different percentages of the money, but we're keeping the application open. So it will just depend on how long we have the funding available.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it looks like we do have a question in the chat here. You probably already alluded to this regarding the future rent, but Hyla has a question. If the tenant is current with their rent but lost their job, can they still apply for future rent due?
Yeah, of course. So we have to prioritize rental arrears, but we are able to provide assistance for any upcoming rent up to 3 months at a time. So there's a total 18 months of assistance with the new money, which is what was just transferred to us in July. So we can provide up to 3 months of assistance at a time currently before we recertify a tenant's eligibility.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
So does anybody else have any questions for Molly? Feel free to unmute right now. Now would be the time to ask.
George, I have a question.
Mhm.
Molly, thank you for taking the time to explain this to us. Question for you, for tenants that are current or have been Section 8 recipients, and does this assistance, is this kind of a supplemental to what they have? Does it impact their Section 8 application, or any information you can share with us?
So no forms of assistance impact any other assistance that the household's providing, including Section 8 eligibility. And Marcus, I don't know if you have any more specifics to add in on the Section 8 piece.
Yeah, just real quick. So this program would help with the tenant portion. The Section 8 assistance would remain, right? But instead of the tenant paying their portion, this program could help them with their portion, say if they lost all their income or something. So that's pretty much the basics of it. But like the contract rent doesn't change, and nothing really changed except for this program supplements their piece of it.
Great. Thank you, Marcus. That was very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Molly or Marcus while they're here? Well, all right. Well, seeing none, thank you very much again, Molly and Marcus, for your time. We'll be sharing this recording with our members so that the information can get out there.
Perfect. And I will add, in addition to the PowerPoint, we have a number of pieces of collateral information that are specific to landlords and answer many of the questions that we've been receiving since March and February of this year. So I will include that collateral, as well as a link to our outreach toolkit. On that website, you can find a number of different pieces of outreach materials that you're welcome either just to share individually with your members, with any organizations that you're a part of. Helps answer many of the questions, as well as more detailed FAQs.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
George, I have one other question for Molly and Marcus. In 2019, the city was looking at a program where they would create a new tax on vacant properties. In other words, properties that weren't renting for a minimum of 30 days. One of the council members raised that issue and wanted the city to start looking at it again. Has the Housing Commission been back looking at that as a potential revenue source for the city?
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. So we're finalizing now a vacancy report. Tax, as other cities have done, would come far after the report is concluded. So the vacancy report, which the commission did undertake at a request from actually our board chair, is just looking at the number of vacant units in the city of San Diego. And then that will be published. Whether or not the city or city council members decide to take further steps to look at whether a tax would make sense for the region would be up to the city council.
Are these primarily more the Airbnb types of properties, or is it just any person who's paying a business rental tax?
So the way other jurisdictions have defined a vacant residential unit is not related to short-term vacation rentals. It's for properties on average that have been vacant based on a utility meter for 6 months or more during a certain period of time.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you again, Molly and Marcus. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.